So here's one where we used a press release, and it showed up on page 1 for the search term bra, and it was right there on page 1 in Google. When people do a search and they find a search page now that is in the blended search or universal search format, this is what they click on. The search and the images and the news are what are getting clicked a lot. So it really would be a good strategy to make sure that you have images that are tagged with your keywords, and that you have a lot of news content out there that will be found on your keywords, and that all this content is still tying back into your story. There's audio that you can use as well. Here's one from it's a Whirlpool podcast, and it's called the American Family Podcast. And if you look this up online and you look at their current podcasts and you look down the list, there is nothing on there that talks about Whirlpool products. They are talking about things that are relevant to their audience. They're all things that the American family would be interested in. But it starts and ends with, this podcast is brought to you by Whirlpool, blah, blah. It's like the old-fashioned sponsored radio show. And podcasts are really getting more and more listenership in certain age groups, and business people are one, and the older, over 50s, is another one, because to them, it's something they know. It's like a radio program. They're very familiar with it. Video is really something that you should be using. Video tells a story. We know that a picture is worth 1,000 words, and the search engines are looking for video content. There have been several sessions about video optimization, and there's another one just after this one on advanced video. And we've seen it time and time again. You do a video, if it's optimized correctly, it will pop onto the first pages of the search result very quickly. So that's another way that you can create a piece of content totally around your story. This was done for Intercontinental Hotels by a company called Turn Here. And in fact, they're speaking in this video session that's just coming up. And they did a very clever campaign where they interviewed the concierges at all the hotels, and it was just like a chat. This is what the guy does. There was no scripting, no special lighting, no 19 cameras, just one guy walking up and saying, "Hi, I've just arrived at the Chicago hotel. What should I do?" And then he would start to talk and say, "Oh, well, you should do this, and around the corner, and over there, and we've got this." And then they did all that background shooting. And so they really are telling the story of the hotels, but they're getting incredible visibility from doing this. You can do it with articles. There's so much content that you could produce on your site that could tell your story, and you can syndicate it with RSS feeds. You can get it out there. You can get it into the social sites. Blogs are another way that you can get it out there. Get it on other websites. And then make sure that all of this is being syndicated with your RSS feeds, because then it takes on a life of its own. It gets legs, and it just keeps going. And you find this content popping up all over the place on websites and blogs that you didn't even know about. They're suddenly carrying your content, and their readers see it. So this is like, see, they all have their own little readers. To me, RSS is like multi-level marketing for content. Just one thing, you have to make sure that once you're doing this, there is a consistency. You have a strategy, you know what the story is, you've figured out what you're going to be doing, but then it's like Chinese water torture. You just keep repeating that same thing so that it's consistent, and you look the same. It's kind of like a corporate image thing. If those are your colors, those are your colors. And you always present yourself that way. If that is your commitment, then that has to be the commitment. Like the Nordstrom guy, whether he did or he didn't. That's the commitment. When the guy comes in, you give him his $40. And you always have to be consistent and live the story. And you leave it, you create that story, but you make it possible for the person who's coming in to have that experience and then have their own story that they can in turn pass on. And let the story spread. I'm sure you've all seen the Diet Coke and Mentos. And have you seen Will It Blend? Okay, it's millions of people who've seen that now. Out of something that actually was just happened almost by error. The guy was testing something that he'd fixed in the blender, and he was putting a 2x4 in it. And the new marketing manager walked through and went, "What are you doing?" And he said, "Oh, I'm just testing the blender." But smart, he pulled out his little flip video and said, "Oh, I have to get this." And he put it up on YouTube. And now we have a Will It Blend channel, and they have like 90 videos, and millions of people have seen that. So I do have a white paper on content strategies and how to create content strategies and tell stories and syndicate it and how it all works in social media. So if you're interested in having that, please give me your business card, and Stuart will take questions.